Today's podcast is brought to you by Inverted Gear. For all your jiu-jitsu needs, go to invertedgear.com. Save 15% off if you type in the coupon code ShowTheArt15 with no spaces. Our next sponsor is Chimera Coffee. That's Chimera Coffee with a K. They are a coffee brand that infused their coffee with nootropics. If you don't know what nootropics are, Google it. They can do a much better job at explaining it than I can. Go to chimeracoffee.com, type in the coupon code ShowTheArt for a nice little discount. Enjoy. Hello.
Hello.
What's going on, big man?
Doing all right.
What's up, my man? Sorry to inconvenience you on your vacation.
Cool. Where are you vacationing, if you don't mind us asking?
We're actually going to Captiva Islands off the coast of Florida, so we're going to have a good time there, man. And rented us a nice house out there and just relax, and that's all we're going to do is just relax. Maybe have a few beers, too.
Nice, man. I just plugged that in my navigation, so we're on our way.
Boom, come on, man. Let's go.
So how are you feeling after your last fight?
I feel good, man. A little banged up. You know, I ended up bruising my feet up a little bit, kicking some elbows and leg kicks with my right foot. And I ended up tearing a ligament in my right thumb, so I may have to have surgery on it. I had an MRI this morning, actually, early this morning. So keeping our fingers crossed. Hopefully I don't have to have surgery on it, and I'll be back out there. Of course, I'm back into training, doing shadow boxing, and, you know, doing some kicking. My feet feel a whole lot better, but man, I'm feeling good, to be honest with you.
Awesome, man. That's good to hear. And, you know, we wish you the best, a quick recovery.
Oh, appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. Yeah, man, it was, of course, you know, when you feel something during a fight, you know that it's, you know, it's kind of serious. So I felt my thumb, and I think during the fight, I looked down and actually kind of shook it off a little bit. So I knew it was pretty bad. I think you feel it during the fight because your adrenaline is going. You normally don't feel anything, but I felt that, definitely.
How often does that happen where, like, you bruise your legs? I can imagine someone like you who kicks very often gets messed up legs. Yeah,
you do, actually. The shins, the top of the feet. I mean, I condition my shins. I condition my feet. We'll try and do the best I can with doing that. You know, I've been doing it ever since I started full contact rules kickboxing. You know, conditioning my shins. But sometimes you're out there doing it all, and you're checking a leg kick or slamming your shins into somebody's elbows. You definitely feel it. But you know what? When you're out there fighting, you're like, man, I can hurt later. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep slamming these kicks. You know, when I fought Johnny Hendricks, I kicked him several times directly in the forearms. And actually, that's what I was aiming for, was his forearms, and trying to deaden his arms with, you know, a good leg kick. And sometimes you can back them off a little bit, especially with somebody who's really aggressive.
Right.
So you slam a good shin kick in there, they're like, oh crap, don't want to do that again. So they start backing up. They get sore, you know, put some ice on them and maybe some Thai liniment or something, and you know, after a week, they're back to normal.
Right. So you're looking to whack them with your shin, which means you're going to get a little closer in distance. Otherwise, you might hit him with your instep and crack your instep on his elbow, and bad night. Exactly.
Yeah, man. Distance is important, especially when you're throwing kicks. You know, side thrust kicks, roundhouse kicks. You have to make sure that you're like this is not too close to where you know, they can catch the leg kick or able to punch you in the face, and not too far away, like you said, so you don't hit him with the top of your foot, end up hurting your ankle or damaging your foot. You know, because that's, for me, that's important because I need my feet, especially in the fight, bounce around and move around. You know. Move it side to side. Yeah, my last fight, you know, with Roy, I ended up hurting with the left foot, but, you know, you got to kind of suck it up when you're out there. A lot of people, you know, most people would just be like, man, I give up or whatever, but, and fighters, I don't know, it's just something about us, the fighters, they just keep on, they're like, screw it, man, I can hurt later. You know, just keep on going.
Yeah, man, and that's something we wanted to get into, your last fight with Rory McDonald, and it was an excellent fight. I know some people thought it was a little boring to the untrained eye, but we thought it was such a great fight and so technical. And props to Rory, man. He came in with a good game plan. We wanted to break down that fight with you and give us our thoughts on what we thought you did right, and maybe you can bounce your ideas off of us with more than what we can see ourselves, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, as soon as we bumped gloves, or as soon as I stepped out there, before I stepped out there, I made the decision to kind of go out there and try and be as aggressive as possible in the beginning, kind of like I did with Johnny Hendricks.
Yeah.
But as soon as I stepped out there, he lowered his stance, and I knew that he was waiting for me to close the gap so he could shoot the leg. So I made the decision right off the bat, you know, to keep my distance, try and throw some feints in the first round just to kind of see how he would react or what kind of takedowns he was looking for. Which I'm glad I did, because he was going for, you know, those flying heel hooks and those rolling heel hooks, which are very tricky.
Props
you know, if you're
to
not
you
used
for
to
getting out of those.
Say that again?
I said props to you for getting out of those, because the heel hook game could be very tricky, and you knew exactly to get that knee out of there and make it safe for yourself.
Yeah, you got out of there like a pro, man.
It was crazy because like 3 weeks before the fight, we were rolling, and I was like, you know what? Watch him try the Ryan Hall flying heel hooks or whatever. I knew he was going to do it because I know he's a heel hook guy. I watched him in some of the Metamoris, jiu-jitsu tournaments. He loves to throw heel hooks, and of course, my buddy Chris Weidman has done some jiu-jitsu with him before, and he said, he was throwing some heel hooks and leg locks and stuff like that. So I was like, watch him go out there, try and throw one of those flying heel hooks in the first round and try and make a statement. But man, I'm glad I thought of that because, I was aware of it. As soon as I said that and thought that, 3 weeks before, we started drilling, those heel hook escapes, and thank God we did that.
Oh my God. That's what makes someone like you championship caliber, honestly. Like, that's not luck. That's luck doesn't happen frequently. That's being very well prepared and acknowledging any little thing that may happen and saying, all right, we're going to work on that. He might do that.
Oh, I know, man. When we had a film, because I've done some training with Ryan Hall, and I knew Ryan Hall would go up to TriStar and do some training there as well. But for this camp, he was kind of neutral. He didn't come here. He didn't go there. But I knew that was kind of fresh in their heads.
Sure.
That's something that they were working on. Of course, Roy, he's a good fighter. He's a very young fighter, and he's always evolving. He's always getting better at his game, this was the most nervous I've ever been for a fight, just because I really wasn't sure exactly what he was going to go out there in the octagon and do. Was he going to stand there or, and try and fight me or be really aggressive like in the Robbie Lawler fight? Or was he going to be more tactical, maybe shoot for the legs, maybe work his wrestling game a little bit more? After I stuffed the first, 3 rolling heel hooks. What do they call those? Do you remember?
The Imanari roll?
Imanari roll,
yeah.
That's right. And I figured in his head, he was like, I'm going to get him with this. I'm going to finish in the first round. Because he tried it 2 more times after that. After that, he maybe tried one little wimpy single leg.
And you sprawled the crap out of him.
Yeah, man. I was like, wow. I knew he liked to throw his takedown straight on the outside.
Yes.
So me and Chris drilled that over and over and over again. Once I stuffed that, it was just stand up from there. How many tried in the last round? I ended up getting side control, throwing a lot of elbows.
Yes.
But for me, I had a headache after that fight because it was such a technical fight, and not just worry about his striking, which is pretty good. He's got great boxing, good head kicks, but his wrestling as well. And trying to time that too. It was a very technical fight and a really thinking fight. And normally I don't think when I'm out there. It's just reaction because thinking's too slow. But every now and then it was like a situation where I was like, you know what? I'm thinking he's going to do this, or I think he's going to do that.
Yeah.
Let me be ready for it. Let me try and draw it out.
Gotcha.
So it was very technical.
Would you say that?
I had fun.
Would you say that when you're put in a situation where you're close to a weakness in yourself, like let's say your weakness is striking, and somebody forces striking in your hands, it might not be very weak, but it's your weakness.
Yep.
That's when you start to think more. Whereas if you're put in your strength, you can think less. So maybe him forcing the heel hook game and guard pulling and aggressive guard pulling, it forced you to think because that might not be your bread and butter.
You know what? That's completely. You hit the nail right on the head with that, man. For real.
I told him that secretly. I whispered it to him.
Yeah, man. That was you were on point with that one. But yes, if I know I can keep the game standing, which is why I know and feeling very comfortable once I get this fight with Robbie Lawler that I would do a whole. Everybody would see more of an exciting fight, I think. But for this one, because I wasn't really sure, he kept me guessing. And I had to be aware of, his striking and when he's going to change that level. So not only would I have to worry about his striking, but trying to react to his takedown as well, be ready for it. And yeah, man, I agree with you 100%. Playing towards somebody's weakness, they have to think a whole lot more. And that will also slow them down because they have to think.
Yeah.
Because their reaction is not as fast because they are thinking.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that he got you thinking. He got you on your toes more. It's almost like, well, now you know how it feels because that's how you make everybody else feel. When I watch your fights,
exactly.
you're just faking everybody out. You do a lot of feints. You do a lot of level changes. You switch stances. You throw this kick, this strike. You pull away and strike. You move laterally and strike. It's like people are hesitating because of your movement. And I wanted to know, I mean, you kind of answered it, but did he make you hesitate at all during the fight, or did he just make you adjust? Because hesitating and adjusting are two different things.
Right. I had to adjust a little bit because, I was thinking going out there in the first round and had my game plan, and right in the middle of it, right when I got there, I had to change it. It just didn't feel right. So, yeah, man, hesitating a little bit, but it was the fact that I had to try and draw out his takedowns if he was going to throw any, and try and keep the distance, for that takedown. So it required me to have to think a little bit more on how to do that, And once I did, you saw him become a little bit more aggressive because I don't think he knew what to do.
Right.
I tried to, worked a lot of blitzing, stuffed his takedowns. I kept my right side forward most of the entire fight because I knew if I had my left side forward, he loves to shoot off of that side. So if you watched during the fight, I kept my right side forward most of the fight. As the rounds went on, when I knew he was a little bit slower and started to get tired, I started to switch sides a little bit more because I knew his reaction time was going to be slower. But yeah, man, it was me turning on my toes a little bit, which made my reactions a little bit slow. If you watch that fight, I got hit a little more than I usually do.
Sure. I wanted to bring up a point that I feel like I noticed, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I felt like allowed you to win the fight, or one of the major things that allowed you to win the fight, was the fact that every time Rory got a little momentum, came forward with a nice combination, and maybe got you close to having your back against the fence, you blocked those punches, or you defended as good as you can, and then you kind of moved and shook him off a little bit, threw a couple of fakes, maybe tried to throw a jab, another fake, you got him frozen, hesitated, and then you cut out of there, you zipped out of there. What I feel like that did was every time he gained a little momentum, that stopped his momentum, and it made him start over, especially because you made him hesitate, and then you got out of there. Do you feel like that's what you did, and is that something that you always do? You stop people's momentum and get them hesitating? Yes, exactly, especially somebody who's really aggressive like that. Once your back is close to the cage, we call that the oh shit zone, Like for a striker, for a guy, a mover like me, I don't want to be there. I know how to defend myself in that position, but I would rather me be out in the middle of the cage. So if somebody who's aggressive and really pushing forward, especially like he did, he'd love to throw the jab and the left hook. What I like to do when they are aggressive, I'll plant and I'll fire. If it's one or two punches, and then I'll move. If they keep coming, as soon as they throw a punch or a kick, I fire directly back. Yeah. What most people do when people throw a combination act, they cover up and they don't do anything after that, and your opponent can get the momentum to keep going and eventually break you. So what you have to do, you have to stop them in that moment. You have to stop the game plan. If I cover up, they'll get that momentum to keep going and end up finishing you. But as soon as I block, I counter right after. That gets them thinking about the defense instead of the offense. And then I can circle out.
Right. And you're countering with your head offline.
Yes. What makes it harder to hit. I mean, if I keep my head on the same plane or on the same line, my opponent can close their eyes and swing and hit me in the face because they'll throw where they saw my head last. Wow. But if I'm always moving my head when I punch, it makes it harder for them to do that, to beat them, Because the head is always the main target. And what you're talking about is disruption. Every time they gain a little momentum, they throw a punch, and you fire back immediately, you disrupt what they were planning to do next, right? Exactly, man, gotcha. Exactly. And that gets them to back up. And that gives you the opportunity to circle out.
So you're always psychologically resetting your opponents.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yes, and you guys are fun to talk to, man. You guys are, when are y'all coming to South Carolina, man? I know you guys are wanting to come, but man, too bad we were freaking on vacation.
No, when you get back, man.
Okay, cool, man.
Maybe sometime in August, if anything.
Yeah, August or tomorrow, whatever.
Yeah, or tomorrow. That's cool.
Dude, we appreciate it.
But one thing also I noticed during the fight was Rory was not drawing into you. You're so good at moving and drawing people into you, and then striking like a snake and then getting out of there again, and whether it's with your hands or your feet. And I noticed midway during the fight, you picked up on that and you stopped trying to draw him in, and you just started planting yourself and allowing him to get close. And I felt like that's when it turned into somewhat of a boxing match, and you still won that boxing match. But was that an adjustment you made where you felt like you couldn't draw him in? He wasn't taking the bait with the movement, so you stopped moving as much?
Yeah, I mean, it's really nothing that I'm thinking when I'm out there, especially when it comes to that aspect of the game. It's more of a feel. So once you feel that they're not, that they're coming, maybe they're frustrated and they're just walking forward, and they don't, they're just walking forward blindly and hoping to hit you, or maybe they're desperate, which I feel he was eventually in the later rounds. Yeah. That's when they start running into things.
Yeah.
And once they run into a few, you stop and they stop being aggressive and they just start standing there, and that's when you can start really teeing off. That's when you can start moving forward and working your angles. So once they're aggressive, you back up, you lure them in, you plant, boom, you throw a combination, and then they may do that once or twice, but eventually they're gonna be like, crap, every time I move in, I'm getting hit with something, so I might as well just stay out here.
Yeah.
And that's when you got them. That's when a good mover or maybe a Muay Thai guy, a good leg kicker can really start to tee off from there.
Right. What I like about you is you were almost damn near in pocket a lot of the fight, or you weren't far away from launching an attack. A lot of MMA fighters, they move back like 2 miles away and then just to come back within range.
Like after an exchange.
After
right?
an exchange, they're gone, and then but you always seem to be within or nearby.
Yeah, that's actually something that my dad has always been working on. Actually, early on in my fight training, maybe I was 12 or 13, 14 years old, is to always move just enough to where the punch barely passes you. Or when you block, you don't want to swat at the arm. Let's say you swat a jab down. You want to move the punch where it barely passes your head. Any more than that is a waste of energy, and you're unable to counterattack. And that's the thing. I always want to be in a position or move back far enough to what I can counter and still be able to hit you. So if the guy throws a jab, and you see a lot of fighters do that, they jump really far back, but by the time they move back forward to hit the guy's ready to block. Right. So you want to move back just enough to where he barely passes you, but be able to hit them before they bring their hand back to block. So, and that's something, maybe a drill that we work on back at home. We'll have one guy just throwing, slow punches, not even have to be fast punches, because it's that's something you have to develop. The more you do it, the faster you're able to do it. Maybe your partner can throw their punches faster. So it's something slow. And maybe start off with just looping punches. A guy will throw just one big looping punch, and you're moving back just enough to where the punch passes you, and then you counter. You know what I mean? And you're moving around. Your partner may throw the other hand. You move back, or you duck, or you slip, or whatever. You want to move and then counter. Move and then counter. And it's a slow thing.
So in essence, you're developing a quicker reaction time.
Exactly.
Like you're speeding up your reaction time.
Yes, and a lot of people think you get that just with sparring or hours of sparring and rounds of sparring. That's not true. You have to develop it first. And this is where I get most out of my training, is when I do stuff like this. For this fight and the Johnny Hendricks fight, I did less sparring and more drilling than anything. And it was stuff like this. It was like live drilling. So you're actually seeing these punches coming. You got to move and then react. Move and then react. Slide back, react, and then once you get used to that, then you're able to do that in your sparring.
Right. Wow. And would you say every technique is steeped in offensiveness and defensiveness? Like there has to be obviously the offensive component, but the defensive component has to be on par as well.
Exactly. Exactly, man. I mean, like what, Bruce Lee said, whenever my opponent expanded, I would move back. Whenever he would move back, I would move forward.
Yeah.
So you have to stay in that distance. If Umberto moves forward, and that's something that we do as well. We'll for a warm up, we'll partner up, and you'll have one guy be the leader. What that means is he moves around wherever he wants to move around. It's my goal to stay in my distance, not his distance, but my distance where I feel that I can hit him from, and I have to stay with that distance.
Yeah.
So if he backs up, I got to move forward. If he moves forward, I've got to back up. So a lot of times he moves forward, he gets a little too close, and then you're rushing to back up. And that's where it gets to be a feel thing.
He's always in your range. We were talking about that earlier, about people saying, oh, well, Rory, not even Rory necessarily, but, oh, this guy dominated the ring control, or this guy, Wonderboy, he backs up a lot. But I'm thinking, what ring control are you talking about when it's his game plan to move back, to move laterally, to draw you in? Sure, the other guy's moving forward in the forward direction more often, but that's not necessarily like
octagon control.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you're winning when the other guy's plan is to draw you in.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that was the kind of, and that right there is more of like the old school thinking. where the aggressor, a lot of the judges would give the aggressor the points, the guy who's just walking forward. But now they're starting to see, hey, the guy walking forward is getting tagged a lot. You know, he's getting punched in the face a lot. Why is this guy who's aggressive face bleeding more than the guy that was backing up?
Right.
You know? And it's because of that. You want to lure. And one of the best boxers out there was very good. Muhammad Ali was phenomenal at it. Roy Jones Jr. is a mastery of it. Even Mayweather is a mastery of that. You know, they're very good at doing that.
Would you call that being the aggressor if you're moving forward and getting tagged, or would you call it you're falling into the other guy's game plan? Technically, you're not the aggressor.
No, you're not.
You're falling
that's what people say it is. You know, that's what people see.
And who cares about octagon control if like Wonderboy is in total control, whether he's moving back, laterally, forward. So as long as you're in control of yourself,
I try to be.
Right. Awesome.
I try to be.
One thing that we were talking about earlier with you, or earlier in the conversation, was he was getting desperate. Maybe last 2 rounds, and I noticed that he was trying to go for broke, and a couple times he would get hyper aggressive and try to chase you down with a long combination. He did land a few more strikes than he was earlier in the competition. I know the people that I was watching it with, we were all kind of rooting for you, and they were like kind of worried, like, oh my God, they caught Wonderboy. Oh no, like I hope he could take a punch kind of deal because he never gets hit. But I was completely confident because you can take a punch because you never get hit, because you rarely get hit. You know what I'm saying? Whereas a guy that gets hit very often is more likely to go down.
I agree with you with that, and that's something my dad's always preaching. My coaches are always preaching in the gym. If you're never getting hit, you're never taking that damage to the head. You see a lot of guys now. Forrest Griffin, for example, I mean, he would tell you this right now. Actually, I was talking to him at the UFC summit last summer. And he said he lost his chin in the gym, getting hit constantly because of his style. And he was like, we were talking and chatting. He was like, man, I wish I had a style like you because you never get hit. And you see guys, I mean, even Robbie Lawler, he doesn't even spar anymore because of that.
Yeah.
You know, at ATT, those guys, they go at it and they beat the crap out of each other. And, you see where he fought Nick Diaz, not saying Nick Diaz doesn't have any power in his punches, but he knocked him out with a jab.
Yeah.
And it was because he was training and getting hit constantly in the gym.
Yeah.
You know, getting dropped or whatever. And now he just stops it. So I don't know if it's because, since he's not sparring anymore, maybe he got his chin back.
Yeah, it looks like it. Because he's been getting hit with a lot of tough shots.
Man. And so that's the whole goal, man. Is trying to lead the sport with as much as your brain as possible. You know, so and not getting hit is definitely a good game plan. A lot of guys, man, they go out there, the Matt Browns, they go out there and they just take shots and they break people's will by doing that. But in the long run, what is that doing to you?
Yeah, unfortunately. And in the long run, competitively, like you said, the Forrest Griffins, the Chuck Liddells, the Vanderlei Silvas, the guys that later in their career were like, man, this guy is on top of the world, and then they can't take a shot anymore. And it's kind of sad because they're still great fighters, but they got hit so many times that a little touch puts them down.
Exactly. You look at Anderson Silva.
Oh. Don't even say that.
You know what I mean?
I'm the biggest Anderson Silva fan.
Me too, man. I've actually spent a week. This was before I was in the UFC. I was looking for a management company, and I knew about Black House in LA, and I actually spent a week there with Anderson Silva and Lyoto Machida, and got to spar with those guys, man. Some of the best strikers who ever stepped in the octagon, man. These guys are phenomenal. But, to see him barely get hit, and his last fight was busy getting dropped, and it looked like it wasn't a whole, big shot. He knows it, and that's why I think he's not as aggressive as he used to be.
Yeah, I feel his distance management is off. His range detection's a little off.
And confidence, Marcos.
His confidence is compromised.
Yeah,
and you see it, but we'll see.
Yeah, man, it is sad. But I mean, he's been in the game for how many years?
That's true.
He's been fighting for how many years?
Right.
You know what I mean? The guy, he's still one of the greats, and he could still probably you stick 100 people in a room, he'll finish every one of them, probably. Still. Yeah, but you got to think about it, he is fighting the world's best fighters.
Yeah, nonstop.
As well. So
true.
Sure.
Looking back at your fight, post-fight now, do you see where you could have made even more connection?
Say that again.
Looking back at the fight, did you figure out where you could have even landed more strikes?
Yeah, and that's one thing. As soon as we got back Sunday from from Ottawa, me and my dad, we sat down and watched the fight over and over and over again. And even though my dad is, even after the Johnny Hendricks fight, he's always finding something wrong that I did, which is, I like that because it's constantly making me better. And I'm always constantly saying, I should have done this, I should have done that. And then always also, obviously, when I go back to the gym, I work on that.
Right.
But there was a few times where, I was out there and I could have threw maybe more kicks. And I threw a lot of side kicks, but not a whole lot of anything else.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have threw them off a little bit more of my kicks, which were able to set up my hands, keep them guessing a little bit. Of course, for me, I don't like to shoot for the legs unless it's there. But with somebody like Rory, why would I want to take it to the ground? But a lot of feints, acting like to take, maybe going for a single leg, picking up and maybe letting it go just to keep him guessing as well. Maybe, try and use his game plan and get himself a little bit,
Sure. Do you think you could have thrown more like roundhouse kicks? Like, for example, if you guys are standing in opposite stances, your power leg, a lot of times when you draw yourself to their weak side, to their jab side, that power roundhouse kick in an opposite stance is opened up. Do you think you could have thrown that a little more, or do you think he was looking for the takedown? He was looking for those high kicks.
Yeah, I think he likes to catch kicks.
Yeah.
High kicks are hard to catch, but the way his arms were out there, he kept his right hand pretty much in front of his nose, which would make it very difficult on his right side. He kept his right arm up, so if I was looking at him, his left side, it'd be harder for me to kick him in the head because it was always there. And his left arm was pretty much straight. So he was kind of hiding behind his shoulder and his elbow, his left elbow, because his arm was fairly straight. So I knew that head kicks were going to be very difficult. I kept kicking his arms, the few kicks that I did. So I stopped doing that because I kicked his elbow pretty hard. So I broke my foot.
Yikes.
And so I just kept the side kicks to the body. And the reason I didn't throw any roundhouse kicks to the body is I figure they're easy to catch. Side kicks are very difficult to catch.
Yeah.
Especially yours.
It's hard to clamp down on them suckers, And if I feel that you do try and catch them, then that's when I kick you in the head. If I saw him try and catch a body kick, then I'll fake that body kick and go high. But he didn't. He just let me kick him in the body,
Like you did Johnny Hendricks.
He knew that I was going to look for those head kicks, so he didn't. He didn't try and block those body kicks.
Sure. Right. Now, on the other side of the equation, and feel free to say I'd rather not divulge that top secret information, but what do you think he could have done better to defeat you?
Boom.
Well, I figured he would be a little bit more aggressive with his takedowns, or maybe his ability to get me to the cage.
Right.
You know what I mean? I figured he would try that a whole lot more. This is strategies that TriStar have used in the past.
Yeah. Just
rush your opponent to the cage, wrestle him, especially against good strikers, to try and tie their arms out. George did it to BJ Penn a few times. I think the 2 times they fought. He also did it in Matt Hughes, who was a strong, Thiago Alves, Carlos Condit. They're strong strikers. They rush into the cage, bully him to the cage, and try and wrestle him. Which event all that wrestling, they do tire the arms out a little bit, which slows you down. So I figured he would do that a little bit more. Maybe not shoot for the leg, but just back me up against the cage.
Gotcha.
I knew that. So that distance management, that's where that came in, to play. Once I felt that he was trying to get me there, that's when you have to sit back and fire. Yeah, I figured he would try that a whole lot more.
I thought with you being in southpaw, him being orthodox, your lead leg is accessible for a single leg. And I thought he was going to take advantage of setting up, faking high, shooting for that single, but he didn't do that.
Whenever he shoots, if you ever watch him shoot, he always shoots to the head to the outside, never to the inside. Okay. A good single leg guy would shoot to the head to the inside.
Right.
But he always shoots head to the outside. So it's hard for him to cross.
Right.
He has to step in order to do that. So he has to cross his body to actually put the head on that side.
Yeah.
Which makes those guys, those outside shots a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Right.
By that time, you're out of there.
Yeah. If I had my left foot in front, it was a straight shot.
Yeah.
For his head to be on the outside, to the left side of my body. So that's why I kept my right foot in front. But a few times out there, my left calf was on fire. I normally don't keep one side forward for too long, So my left calf was burning the whole time. And a few times I staggered back because my freaking calf gave out. My left calf is still sore from the fight.
Wow.
Just from bouncing around and kicking?
No, I think it was just because I kept whenever I'm in my fighting stance, I always keep my back heel up. If you watch a lot of fighters, they keep their back heel flat.
Yeah.
Which sets you down and it enables you to be able to move around.
Yeah.
If you keep that heel up, fastest people in the world are what? Are world-class sprinters, right?
Right.
You'll never see a sprinter go A to B standing up straight. They never
Sure.
start. They always get hunkered down. They get low, back heels up, ready to move forward.
Sure.
Are you on the ball of your foot, or are you on the inner blade of your foot? I have to watch your fight closely.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Because a lot of times, if I stand in front of you, and I'm standing still, my hands down, I'll stick my face out, right, to try and get you to hit. Try and get you to hit it. My back heel is up a little bit more. If I'm bouncing around, I keep a little bit more bladed stance, so I'm on the kind of the outside edge of that foot.
Does the same thing go for your front foot? For you to retreat backwards, or even to move to your right or left?
If I'm bouncing, then my feet are actually facing the same direction, but I'm always on my toes.
Gotcha.
That front foot is never really flat if I'm moving around. Now, if I want to stand there to try and lure you in, I'll stand there and I'll put a lot of weight on that front foot, just in case you do try and shoot. I can use my hip or throw a leg kick. I can use it to check it as well. But most of the time, my feet are 50-50 even, because my front foot, I can move it a whole lot faster. I can pick it up to kick, and I can blitz if I want. So I can kick and strike. If you watch a lot of people spar or fight, if they lean forward, they're trying to punch. If they lean back, they're trying to kick. So I try and keep it 50-50, so you're not really sure what I'm going to do.
Nice. One of the things about leg kicks that I kept hearing pre-fight, like people breaking down the fight and trying to figure out what are the keys to victory, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things I kept hearing was, Rory needs to attack leg kicks because you keep such a wide stance, it can be very open. But in my opinion, Rory, he's not a big leg kicker, and his kicks are not very fast. And your movement is probably faster than his kick can whip out anyway. So I always thought that would be a terrible idea to go for against you. Do you find that that's a strategy that doesn't work against you, leg kicks to that front leg?
Actually, whenever I spar or whenever I fight a guy, if I know he's a leg kicker, he'll go out there and try and go for a leg kick right off the bat. So I have game plans for leg kickers. So let's say I have my right foot in front, he has his right foot in front. So most of the time they'll use that back leg to chop the back of my front leg.
Sure.
So there's two things I like to do. Either I keep my 50-50 stance, so when they kick, I'm able to move that front foot back real easy, or as they come around, I'll bring my leg going in the same direction up, and I'll hit you with a side kick or a hook kick.
Of course.
How about an axe kick?
So, you know what? I've never really been an axe kick guy, but a hatchet kick, which is like you have a hook kick, which pretty much is parallel, right? An axe kick is straight vertical; it goes straight up, straight down. A hatchet kick is kind of a 45. And I like to use that, especially a guy who keeps his hands up, his guard up really high, kind of towards their face. I use a hatchet kick to slap that front hand down and able to throw your punches.
That's so funny.
Hatchet.
Holy crap. That's crazy.
Chopping people up.
Yeah, not many people are axe kick guys. Like Crow Cop threw an axe kick or two in his day, but not many people throw axe kicks.
They don't, man. And to be honest with you, Joe Silva sent me an email the other day of this YouTube video of this guy, MMA fight local. It must have been a local show. It must have been a Taekwondo guy, because he threw a axe kick so freaking hard he knocked the dude out.
Oh man, where did it land?
Hit him heel directly to the face. It was unbelievable. Something you never see.
Poor guy.
Wow.
Now, I wanted to also go into something a little fun, but I wanted to ask your opinion, just for fun, not to put anybody down, but super fight scenarios. Obviously, the size differences would be a big difference, but what would be keys to the victory for you to fight someone like other people from other weight classes? For example, you against someone like Jose Aldo. But what would be some keys for you, your style, to defeat someone like Jose Aldo?
Side kick to the face. Next.
Actually, a side kick to the face would work against somebody like him, because he does stand fairly high, fairly tall, and which makes his kicks kind of fast. I know he's a leg kicker. So what I would try and do with somebody like him, I would try and stick my front leg out to try and get him the leg kick. Of course, he's a very fast leg kicker, but everything is behind that leg kick.
Yes.
So if I can get him to swing and miss, whenever he misses, it's very difficult to put that foot back in to its spot. So in that time is when I need to be hitting you. So what I would try and do is try and get into leg kicks. So as soon as you leg kick and miss, then I'll attack, you know. So same thing with the hands. I would lure you in, try and throw your punches, and then try and counter off your punches. The same thing with his leg kicks to try and lure that. His boxing's fairly basic. It's really nothing that crazy, you know. And he doesn't really cover distance very well. He kind of stands there and bangs a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but every kick, every combination ends with a big leg kick. Kind of, you know, he's a very big Muay Thai guy.
Yeah.
So, and of course, the movement would definitely throw him off. A lot of feint when it comes to guys, especially with high level striking, which was why, man, I was wanting the Anderson Silva and Uriah Hall fight to go down so bad.
Oh, that's scary.
Because guys at that level, it comes down to the feints.
Right.
You know, if I can make you feint, if I throw a feint and get you to react to that feint, even if it's just a flinch, all right, and I would take advantage of that flinch, you know, or your reaction. You know, so if I throw a punch or if I fake like I'm throwing a punch and you flinch, you know, you have to come back in order to throw that punch again.
Yeah.
So that's when I have to hit you. So I have to feint, boom, and then as soon as you react to that feint, then I gotta hit you.
Wow. It's a microsecond.
You know what's funny? I feel like you fighting Anderson would just be a whole match of fakes. Like no punches would land. It would just be fake after fake after fake.
We're just feinting each other out, man. Man, I know that's what it kind of sucks, especially for the normal fans, for people who don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah, I
could see where it could be kind of boring, but I haven't got anything but positive things. I know they were booing at the fight, but you know, the people in Ottawa, they just got to seeing Donald Cerrone just manhandle Cote. And the fight before that, you had the 205ers literally standing in front of each other, punching each other in the face.
Yeah.
And go from that to something a little bit more technical. I can see where it could be like kind of boring to them, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
But from social media and things like that, a lot of the martial artist guys were like, you know, they were very happy with it.
Awesome, man.
We loved it.
Yeah, very technical.
That puts a smile on my face, guy. That's awesome. I appreciate it, man.
For sure, man. How would you do, or what would you do if you fought a Dominic Cruz type fellow?
Oh, snap.
Because he's a master of movement and evasiveness, and he's unorthodox.
Would you chop his legs down?
Assuming size isn't a factor.
His legs.
Man, no, because if you watch him, he's a leg catcher as well.
Yeah.
He'll leg catch. He'll catch your leg and punch you in the face, and use it to his advantage, maybe to a takedown.
Right.
But for a guy like that, anything straight in would. If I throw anything circular, I'm missing. Okay, which is something TJ Dillashaw. He likes to throw a lot of looping punches. Every now and then he'll throw some straight shots, but he's more of a looping punching guy. But the way Dominic Cruz moves from side to side, you know, he gets you to swing and miss, and he also counters you as well. But he's so unorthodox and so weird. You know what I mean? He just does stuff that people don't do, and that's how he gets you, because it's so freaking weird. Did he really just hit me with that?
Yeah.
You know, and he's like leaning way over to his left, and he like jabs you in the face. It's weird. I don't know, man. That's a hard one, because he does got good movement, man.
Yeah.
Shoot. What would you guys think, man?
I like what you said about attacking the straight shots, and I felt like one of the things that was working for TJ against him was when he started to turn on his speed and try to match Dominic Cruz's movement with hyper speed. And when he was doing that, he was also throwing a lot of straight punches, and he was following him. He wasn't letting Dominic move out of the way. He was just following him down. So I feel like that would work. Also, what what's his name? Demetrius Johnson did. Every time Dominic would evade a strike, Demetrius Johnson will run after him and force him to the fence.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe those things would work, but again,
I felt TJ Dillashaw did land a few roundhouse kicks to the head.
Two or
three times.
Way over, right?
Yeah.
Right. So he did catch him a few times.
But he threw a lot of them.
For an aggressive guy like him, I mean, not aggressive guy, but a guy who moves like that, they want to get you to try and overcommit on your punches.
Right.
So that way they can counter you as well. Mm-hmm. So maybe pecking and just trying to outpoint, just peck your jab, or trying to overcommit on your punches. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you look for the knockout with those kind of guys, that's when they get you, because you overcommit. They start leaning, and then that's when they come back with their big power shot or whatever. Kind of like with Hendricks. You know how He was really leaning forward over on his punches. It just made it easier for you to counter him because he was really committing to those, and he was out of position.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I can see with guys that move from side to side and really awkward, once they start moving, rushing them because they're off balance, they have to move somewhere, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that somewhere is backwards. If you can get them to the fence, then you can start maybe trying to control them and from there. But that's where Demetrius Johnson, but Dominic Cruz is really good too because they have phenomenal wrestling.
So it's like one thing's not working for them, they can easily go to the next.
Yeah, man, that's what makes them dangerous, and that's where how the game is evolving. Like imagine the fighters, 15 years from now or 20 years from now,
Oh.
what is that going to be like?
It can either be really good or honestly, it could be really bad.
Yeah, true. Because it's like, they're just so technical, it could just be like boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like we said, it'll
True.
just be a match.
That's when the UFC will have to start throwing weapons out there,
like
like nunchucks or something.
Then it would really be the ultimate fighting.
Exactly.
Oh snap!
Awesome.
Few people asked us some fan questions to ask you. If you have like an extra second to answer one or two of them, mind?
Sure. Cool.
One of our friends, actually, Javier, he asked if karate provided the same avenues, incentives, and exposure as UFC did, would you change lanes? Like if they provide the exact same kind of structure that you can make a living doing and exposure, would you have stayed with that lane?
Huh.
Good question, Javier.
That is a good question. I'm more of a realistic type guy. So there are karate styles out there that allow kicking, punching, and takedowns as well, but they really don't follow up after that. They take each other down, they strike. But in a street situation, for instance, 99.9% of the time in a street situation, you're going to end up on the ground. And that's how I look at my, why I switched from kickboxing to mixed martial arts was because it was more geared toward like, a real street situation.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying karate's not like that. I mean, yeah, our karate program, we do groundwork as well. We do striking, we do the wrestling, we do the jiu-jitsu. But a lot of the competitive karate fighting out there, the point fighting, the continuous fighting, it's all stand-up.
Yeah.
I may have dabbled with it, but striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, it's more of a street situation type thing. You know what I mean? It's
more like true combat. Like what's the truest to real life?
Exactly. That's why I think I would stick with this. If that's an option.
That is an option, and that's a good option. And I agree with you. I think if somebody were to pick from those two, the best option is always to take it all as opposed to one thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I competed in a point fighting tournament a few years back just for shits and giggles, you know what I mean? And, I got scored on from a guy dropping down to his side. He literally fell down and threw a round kick up and just hit me in the body. I'm like, dude, I can just punch you in the face right now or stomp you or whatever.
Yeah.
How could you be getting points for that? Of course, I used to do that all the time when I was growing up. But now that I'm more aware and
an adult,
right? I'm realizing, man, I could get killed.
Yeah.
And a lot of these karate schools, they're all about point fighting. You know what I mean? They got away from the street situation type scenarios, and all they're doing is tournament style combat. And now a lot of jiu-jitsu schools are going that way as well.
Right.
Where is the real, street situation type stuff in the martial art?
Right.
I would never drop to my side and throw a round kick up because I'm stuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you landed on some concrete. Maybe you hit a curb.
Yeah, man. Like you hurt your elbow or something. I don't know. So.
Yeah. Fair enough, man. That's all the time we have, but we really appreciate you coming on, man.
For the second time. Yes.
Man, hey, let's do it again sometime, man. I'm always down.
Yeah.
Always enjoy talking to you guys.
You're like the only guy we could have a good martial arts technical conversation with.
Heck yeah, man. I take that as a compliment, my friend.
Hell yeah. But yeah, man, thanks a lot, man. And we wish you the best. We hope you get that title shot that you deserve.
Of course he's getting it.
Yes, I'm getting the title shot. Let's do this. Come on.
He's the champion. That's it.
Cool, man. Well, thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. I'll have a good one, man.
Thanks, man.
All right, bye.
Bye.
If you guys enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, comment on our iTunes or Stitcher or any platform that you are on. It goes a really long way, guys. When you subscribe, it pushes us further along and it allows us to continue to bring you these podcast episodes with our guests. And it really helps out a lot to subscribe. It makes it a lot easier. It automatically downloads the episodes on iTunes. It's just easier to get us on your phone or your computer. So please subscribe. That's one of the biggest things you can help us out with.